Hello, good day. My name is Dr. Muiz Murad. I am the founder of EcoDwell Ventures Sdn Bhd. Today I'm going to share with you a very good collaboration opportunity for zero cost solar program. This sharing session is a series of presentation, and today I'm going to be presenting the first part of the series, which is a background introduction on basically solar programs in Malaysia. Okay, solar in Malaysia have started as far back as 2007 and 8 with our government programs. And the first government program or scheme that was introduced was called the Fit-in Tariff program, and it was introduced back in the year 2011 with the approval of the 2011 Renewable Energy Act in Malaysia. And in Malaysia, the custodian for the Renewable Energy Act is the government agency called the Sustainable Energy Development Authority. Okay, so back in 2011, when the government first introduced the Fit-in Tariff program, the Fit-in Tariff program was supposed to have a I would say a shelf life. Okay, and it was supposed to expire somewhere in the year 2017 and 18. Okay, so the Feed-in Tariff program is a program whereby the government would want to encourage the installation of renewable energy in Malaysia, in particular solar energy, either rooftop or solar farm. And as an incentive, the government is providing a scheme whereby the beneficiary of the solar system will get to sell 100% of the renewable energy that is being harvested to the grid. And in Malaysia, the owner of the grid is our utility provider called TNB, or Tenaga Nasional Berhad, and TNB will buy this the renewable energy generated at a higher tariff price. So back in 2011 and 2012, the takeoff rate from TNB, went as high as $1.50 or ringgit and 50 cents in Malaysia, and it went down gradually as the year goes by. And it was a very good program because it gives cash to the investor of the solar or the owner of the solar system that put solar system either on the roof and also or either as a solar farm. And at the end of the day, Fit-in Tariff program was rather successful in a way that it dropped the price of solar tremendously. So when Fit-in Tariff was first introduced, the price of solar system supplied and installed in Malaysia at that time was around 15 to 16,000 ringgit per kilowatt peak. That's about 4,000 US dollars per kilowatt peak. And at the end of 2016, 2017, the price of solar went down to about around 7,000 to 8,000 ringgit per kilowatt peak. So in a way, the program was very successful. However, there were some drawbacks to the program. one of the drawback is that not everyone can enjoy the fit-in tariff program. To enjoy the program, you have to basically own your own roof. So whoever that is staying in the strata type accommodation, high rise and things like that, they won't be able to enjoy the program. Now, another drawback to the program was the fact that uh, the government only puts together an initial pool of funds to pay back all the investors, because once you registered for the entire program, you basically enjoy the concession for 21 years. So every month for the next 21 years, you get your payment from your investment, and the funds, a small portion of it comes from the government in a form of grants that's being put into a renewable energy fund. The rest of the funds is actually being paid by TNB account holders, either residential, commercial, or industrial account holders. So anyone that pays their bill above 70 ringgit per month, they will contribute around 2 to 2.5% to being put into these funds. So as a consequence, the fit-in tariff scheme was enjoyed by those who have access to roofs, number one. Secondly, only those that have access to funds in terms of cash and things like that. So those who can't afford it, they have to get bank loans in order to buy the solar system, and at that time it was very, very pricey. And not everyone qualify for the bank loans, because loans that is available are in the form of a personal loan, and the banks, they present quite a strict credit check for those who wants to apply for the loan. Okay, so at the end of the day, yes, in some respect the program was successful, but there were some drawbacks. So at the end of 2017, the feed-in tariff program, especially for rooftop solar, was closed. Uh, and the government introduced another scheme that was called the net energy metering scheme, towards 2016. The difference between net energy metering, or NEM in short, was that NEM was not a scheme whereby you sell renewable energy in return for cash. It's more of a energy saving scheme, right? So how it works with NEM is that you will harvest renewable energy, for example, solar energy, and you export it to the grid. And all this is being recorded by the smart meter, the utility smart meter. And then at the same time, whatever energy that you consume from the grid also will be recorded by the smart meter. And at the end of the month, the meter will then offset both the incoming and the outgoing energy, and you only pay the difference. Okay. One drawback when the government introduced NEM, and in the NEM 1.0, was that number one, whatever price that you pay to buy energy from the utility, and the price of solar that is being bought by the utility as you export it to the grid, is not a one-to-one ratio. So there's a displacement cost to that, and the price of RE that was purchased by the utility provider is slightly less than what they sell their grid energy to the consumer. Another drawback was if there is any surplus of renewable energy at the end of the monthly billing cycle, the utility provider does not give cash back to the owner of the RE system. What the utility provider does is they give in the form of energy credits. So the energy credits you can use for a future usage. Let's say, for example, the next billing cycle, you have a deficit in energy. You use more from the grid compared to from your RE, and you can carry forward the energy credit for 24 months or 2 years. Another drawback when government introduced NEM 1.0 was the fact that the price of solar, although it has dropped during the FIT scheme, it did not drop low enough to the point where the return of investment and the payback for the NEM scheme is the same as the FIT. So during the FIT, because of the fact that the takeoff rate by the utility provider is higher and better. So ROI was between 70%, 17% to 20%, and that gives a return of investment or payback of about between 5 to 6 years, which was very, very good. But during NEM 1.0, the ROI reduced because of the whole scheme, and it went back to about anywhere between 9 to 11%. So payback is anywhere between 9 to 10 years, and because of that, and because it's not a scheme whereby it gives cash back to the investor or the owner of the solar system, the NEM 1.0 scheme was really not popular. So both feed-in tariff scheme and the NEM scheme, the government introduced them with a quota. So you've got to apply for the quota. So back then, the FIT scheme, every time the government released the quota, it was taken very, very fast, but when the government introduced quota for the NEM scheme, people barely, apply for the quota. So at the end of the day, by the time 2018 hit, NEM quota, I think at the time, there was still about 90% left. Government released about 500 megawatts in 2016, so only about 50 megawatts was taken up. In 2018, there was a change in government in Malaysia, and the new government at that time decided to revise back NEM 1.0 to NEM 2.0. And basically what the government did was the government introduced a much more friendly offtake rate. So instead of having a displacement cost, now whatever our renewable energy that you sell to the grid, the utility provider will buy it at a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's number one. Number two is knowing for a fact that people can afford to install solar because of the cost. The government introduced another scheme called the SARE scheme, SARE, which is a short form for Supply Agreement Renewable Energy. We will talk about SARE later on, but basically SARE is a scheme whereby it's actually a payment scheme whereby government endorse third-party investor to come in and to register with the government, and once registered, they can then invest on the solar system on the rooftop, a la IPP model, independent power producer model. So what we have seen that in 2018 or end of 2018, when the government introduced NEM 2.0 with SARE, right? The installation of solar took off. Okay, so basically at the end of 2020, when the 500 megawatt quota expired, all quota was taken up, due to the fact that it was NEM 2.0 and also with SARE. And I would like to add here that both NEM and FIT is a connection method, and in such a way that that FIT and both NEM connects to the distribution board of the premise, and you sell back solar to the grid. Okay, there's another connection method called SELCO, short form for self-consumption, and this was also introduced by the government in 2017. So the difference between SELCO and both FIT and NEM is that for SELCO, you use the RE for your own consumption, and you do not export any of the renewable energy to the grid. However, the government allow for the SARE scheme to be also conducted for the SELCO type connection as well. Okay, so moving ahead, in 2021, the government have introduced a further 300 megawatts for NEM, and now it's been labeled as NEM 3.0. Okay, however, NEM 3.0 have a shelf life of 10 years. Okay, so at the end of 10 years, everything goes back to the SELCO method. Okay, so SELCO is still ongoing, same with SARE and NEM 3.0. Also, I would like to emphasize here that under the SELCO scheme, there is no quota because we're not exporting any energy to the grid. And I will talk in a bit later why quota is being introduced for RE scheme, whereby surplus of the RE energy is being exported to the grid. So in a nutshell, these are the schemes that was introduced or that was made available to Malaysia between 2011 and now ongoing in 2021. Okay, now in 2018, after the shift of the government then made a pledge whereby it wants its energy mix to be at least 20% RE by 2025. Now in 2021, the energy mix is still around hovering about between 2 to 5%. So we still have about 15% of RE that we need to generate by 2025, and this presents a very, very big opportunity, especially since the government now have allowed for third-party investors to invest in solar in Malaysia. And to achieve this, we will need at least around 33 billion ringgit or USD $8 billion, for investors to come in and to participate in this program. Yeah, and as we move from 2011 to 2021, solar PV has be seen in Malaysia as the most popular choice of RE because of easy to implement, the price, and so on and so forth. And as I mentioned just now, in 2018, price of solar at the time was about 8,000, 7 to 8,000 ringgit per kilowatt peak. Now in 2021, the price of retail solar has dropped further to about 4,500 to 5,000 ringgit per kilowatt peak. Yeah, and in addition to that, the capacity or the solar efficiency is also increasing. If back in 2011, you will see about 200 watts or 250 watts module, entering the market. Now in 2020, 2021, 400 to 450 watts module are quite common, and we were informed that a module with a capacity of 500 watts to 800 watts is entering the market very, very soon. Okay, so just to recap, I've covered the two types of connection, which is NAM and Celco. And there's a third one is large-scale solar farms, for investors who want to invest in large-scale solar farms. However, we have seen a trend whereby investors now are investing more on rooftop solar as opposed to large-scale solar, because of the fact that the takeoff rate for the rooftop solar is better. So for example, if you invest in large scale solar, the takeoff rate tariff now is about slightly below than ringgit Malaysia 20 cents, whereby if you go for rooftop solar under NAM or Celco and under SARE, you still can get anywhere between 25 cents to 40 cents depending on the tariff type. So that's that's a good news. Okay, just to recap, for NAM and Celco under the SARE payment program, the focus now is at commercial and also industrial market. You can see in this slide that the commercial and the industrial market consume 76% of the total energy from the utility provider. So this is the current market that we're currently focusing on. We're not focusing on the residential market for the SARE program. Now, the reason because of this is also the risk of payment of bill default is higher with residential market or domestic market, and not that high as compared to for the commercial and industrial market as well. Okay. Now, you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, for a conventional fossil fuel type supply generation is at about 27 cents. Now, this is good news for RE because now, for let's say, for example, large-scale solar, supply generation cost has dropped below 20 cents. And for rooftop solar, it is around still 25 cents or 40 cents. So that means you can see a trend whereby now the cost for RE in Malaysia is becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as we progress. Now, I mentioned just now that there is a requirement for quota, especially for NAM and previously FIT, and also for the large-scale solar if you want to participate in the scheme. And there's no quota for Celco. And this is the reason for it, because currently in Malaysia, the reserve margin for electricity is now at 35%, whereby optimum level should be around 25%. And because of this, it affects the base rate for tariff in Malaysia. Okay, so what the government is doing now is it is slowly decommissioning conventional fossil fuel plant, while slowly encouraging the commissioning of RE plant. So there's a 10% buffer to allow for this transition to take place, and that's the reason why the government is slowly phasing out fossil fuel plants and introducing and commissioning new RE power plant using the 10% reserve margin buffer that we currently have in the country at the moment. And for investors, there's plenty of roofs to invest on, and you can see on the slides, there's more than 3.2 million landed property with 450,000 shop houses, 90,000 terrace factories, 21,000 standalone factories, and 1,000 shopping centers, and 5,000 government buildings. So for an average investors, they would want to invest, let's say, for example, anywhere between 300 to 400 sites to get around 100 megawatts worth of investment. And you can see here that we have more than enough roofs for investors to go around. And based on our experience, conversion rate is about 30%. So for example, if you have a roof of a size of, let's say, for example, 100 square meters, so 30 square meters is actually being used to put solar on the roofs. This is based on our experience assessing more than 60 sites across Malaysia. So as a recap, the zero cost program is the SARE program, whereby investors, or we call them RPVIs, registered solar PV investors, they come and they register with SEDA, and they will then invest on rooftops. So the good thing about it is zero cost to the site owners. They don't have to pay for any upfront installation cost. All the maintenance, insurance is taken care by the investors or the RPVIs for 21 years. And at the same time, the site owners will get a up to 20% discount in the tariff rate. So we'll cover that on in other parts of this sharing session. This will help government to achieve the 20% renewable energy generation target by 2025. So it's a win-win-win situation for all stakeholders involved. So to recap back with SARE, it is a zero cost program. Before this, as I mentioned, solar is a form of clean energy that is very attractive. However, because of the initial high capital upfront cost, a lot of site owners do not want to invest on solar. So now with the zero cost program, premise owner are coming out and they want investors to put solar on their rooftops. Site owners will get back their return investment through the generation of solar power, and the collection of the payment is being done by the utility provider, and it's being then returned back to the investor. So we'll cover that later on. So how do site owner benefits? They get a reduced tariff from the solar energy that's being generated. At the end of the 21 years of the contract expire, the system is then being transferred at no cost to the site owner. So that's another advantage to the site owner after 21 years. Yeah. So in terms of agreement, there's two kind of agreement. One is a tripartite agreement contract between the site owner, the investor, and also the utility provider, giving the utility provider, approval to collect the payment on behalf of the solar investor via the utility bills. And the other agreement is being signed between the solar investors and the site owner, which is the power purchase agreement for 21 years, right? So the grid provider or the utility provider still continue to provide regular electricity supply. They still collect monthly payment bills, and they will pay the portion of the investors at every month, and they will charge a small fee for the bill collection. Yeah, the site owner will consume electricity now from two different sources, from the grid and also from solar, as opposed to only from the grid before. And whatever that they consume from the solar, they will enjoy it up to 20% discounted rate on their tariff. So that translates to an for them to enjoy monthly savings during the 21 years of the program, and more after the 21 years after the system is being transferred to the owners. They don't have to pay for maintenance and also for insurance, and all that is covered by the solar investors. And because of all this, they are also protected by any future tariff hikes. So the discounted tariff that they have agreed with the solar investors, they are being protected. So the rate is being locked for 21 years. For the investors, they get to invest on the solar assets on the roof as an IPP. The offtake rate by the utility provider and site owner is still very good. Like what I mentioned just now, between anywhere between 25 to 40 cents. It's a very secure program whereby the utility provider will help to collect the payment on behalf of the solar investors every month. So that means the solar investors do not have to come up with their own team to collect payment from site owners every month. So these are all the added advantage of the program, basically. So this is the end of our presentation. I hope I have covered the basic introduction of the various solar schemes in Malaysia, and touch a bit of on the SARE Zero Cost Investment Program. So I hope to see you on another part 2 of this sharing session, whereby we will discuss more details of this opportunity. So thank you very much.